Las Vegas, 1968. 20 minutes into his show, a man walked down the aisle and handed Sammy Davis Jr. an envelope on stage. In front of 1,200 people, Sammy opened it. Inside, "You have 30 minutes to live. Leave now or die on stage." The audience watched, not knowing what was happening. Sammy read the note twice. Then he looked at the crowd, folded it, put it in his pocket, and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I've got 12 more songs in this set. Let's see if I can finish them all." In 29 minutes, he performed through a death threat. Backstage, a bomb squad was searching the theater. Security was evacuating areas. But Sammy, he sang, danced, and told jokes like nothing was wrong, because the show must go on, even when your life is on the line. March 8, 1968. The Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. Friday night, second show of the evening. Sammy Davis Jr. was headlining in the Copa Room, the same venue where he'd performed hundreds of times over the past 15 years. The crowd was packed. 1,200 people in the showroom, another few hundred in the casino, hoping to catch a glimpse. Sammy was in peak form that night. At 42 years old, he'd been performing for nearly 40 years. He knew how to work a crowd better than almost anyone alive. The show had started at 10 p.m. By 10:20, Sammy was well into his set. He'd opened with the Candyman, moved through some Rat Pack standards, done his famous impressions of Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. The crowd was loving it. Laughter, applause, the perfect Vegas audience on a Friday night. That's when it happened. A man stood up from a table in the middle section. Not unusual. People got up during shows all the time to use the restroom, get drinks, whatever. But this man didn't head toward the exits. He walked toward the stage, down the center aisle, getting closer to where Sammy was performing. Security noticed but didn't move immediately. Sometimes fans tried to get autographs, slip notes to performers, harmless stuff. The man reached the front of the stage. He was holding a white envelope. He extended it upward, toward Sammy. Sammy was mid-song, but he saw the man, saw the envelope. This happened occasionally. Fans passing notes, phone numbers, requests for songs. Sammy finished the line he was singing, then walked to the edge of the stage. The band kept playing quietly behind him. He smiled at the man, reached down, and took the envelope. "Thank you, friend," Sammy said into the microphone, waving the envelope at the audience. Fan mail delivered in person. That's service. The audience laughed. The man turned and walked back to his table, sat down, watched Sammy. Sammy was still at the front of the stage, the band vamping behind him, giving him a moment. He looked at the envelope. His name was typed on the front. Nothing else. Something made him open it right there. Maybe curiosity, maybe instinct, maybe the fact that the man was just sitting there, watching him with an expression that wasn't quite right. Sammy opened the envelope, pulled out a single piece of paper. Typed, all capitals, "Sammy Davis Jr. You have 30 minutes to live. Leave the stage now or die in front of your audience. This is not a joke." 10:21 p.m. Sammy read it. His smile didn't change. His body language didn't shift. But his eyes, anyone watching closely, would have seen his eyes change. Just for a second. Recognition. Assessment. Decision. He read it again. Glanced at his watch. 10:21 p.m. The note was time-stamped to the minute. The audience was starting to get quiet, sensing something was different. The band was still playing softly, waiting for Sammy's cue. Sammy folded the note carefully, put it in his jacket pocket, turned to the audience with a big smile. "Well, ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying perfectly through the sound system, "I just received some interesting news. Apparently, I have exactly." He glanced at his watch again. 0.29 minutes left in this show. "So I've got to move fast. I've got 12 more songs to get through." The audience laughed, thinking it was a joke. A bit, part of the show. "So let's pick up the pace a little," Sammy continued. He turned to the band leader, George Rhodes. "George, let's hit Mr. Bojangles and keep it moving." The band launched into the opening of Mr. Bojangles, and Sammy performed it like nothing was wrong. Sang, danced, worked the crowd. But backstage, chaos had erupted. Tommy, Sammy's road manager, had been watching from the wings. He'd seen the man approach, seen Sammy open the envelope, seen the expression change in Sammy's eyes for just that split second. Something was wrong. Tommy radioed to the security office. "Get someone to Sammy, now. Something just happened." A security guard moved quickly to the side of the stage. Sammy was still performing, but he saw the guard between lines of the song. Barely noticeable to the audience, Sammy reached into his pocket, pulled out the note and tossed it to the guard. The guard caught it. Read it. His face went white. He spoke into his radio. Code red. "We have a credible threat. Evacuate Backstage immediately. Get the bomb squad here now." Within 2 minutes, the Backstage area of the Sands Hotel transformed into controlled chaos. Security was moving staff out of the building. The bomb squad was being called. Police were on their way. The hotel manager was being notified. And on stage, Sammy Davis Jr. was finishing Mr. Bojangles to thunderous applause. Tommy rushed to the stage manager. "We need to stop the show. Get Sammy off stage. Evacuate the building." The stage manager looked at the crowd. 1,200 people, plus staff, plus the casino floor, which was also packed. "If we evacuate," he said, "we'll cause a panic. People could get hurt in the crush, and if there's a bomb, we don't know where it is. Could be in the showroom, could be backstage, could be in the casino. Moving everyone might trigger it. So what do? We let Sammy finish the show. We search everywhere else. If we find something, we evacuate. If we don't," he paused, "we pray it's a bluff." Tommy stared at him. "You're betting Sammy's life on it being a bluff? I'm betting everyone's life on not causing a stampede. You want to tell 1,200 people there might be a bomb in the building?" Backstage, the bomb squad arrived within 8 minutes. 4 technicians with dogs, scanning equipment. The works. They started in the basement, working their way up, checking storage rooms, dressing rooms, electrical panels, anywhere an explosive device could be hidden. On stage, Sammy had moved into What Kind of Fool Am I? He was performing it beautifully, powerfully. You'd never know anything was wrong. George Rhodes, the bandleader, knew something was up. He'd seen the security response, seen the tension backstage, between songs. He leaned over to Sammy. "Boss, what's going on?" Sammy smiled at him. "Nothing we can't handle. Just keep playing." "Should we be worried?" "George," Sammy said quietly, still smiling for the audience. "I've been worried since I was 3 years old. Doesn't mean we stop playing." The band members were nervous now. They could see the activity in the wings, security guards everywhere, people being moved out. Something was clearly wrong. But Sammy kept performing, song after song. "I've Gotta Be Me." "The Lady is a Tramp." "Birth of the Blues." 10:30 p.m. 9 minutes left of the 30-minute deadline. Tommy was pacing in the wings. The bomb squad had found nothing. No device. No explosives. No sign of anything dangerous. But that didn't mean it wasn't there, or that the threat wasn't real in some other way. Maybe it wasn't a bomb. Maybe it was a gun. Maybe the man who delivered the note was planning to do something. Security had located the man who delivered the envelope. He was still sitting at his table, watching the show. They had 2 undercover officers positioned near him, ready to move if he made any suspicious gesture. 10:35 p.m. 4 minutes left. Sammy was singing One for My Baby, the sad torch song, his voice carrying through the room with that mixture of pain and beauty that only Sammy could deliver. The audience was completely absorbed. They had no idea that backstage, dozens of people were preparing for the worst. 10:38 p.m. 1 minute left. Sammy finished One for My Baby. The audience applauded. He took a bow. "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You've been a wonderful audience tonight. But I've got time for one more song. This is a special one." He nodded to George Rhodes. The band began the opening chords of My Way. 10:39 p.m. The 30-minute deadline passed. Tommy was watching the clock. 10:40. 41. 42. Nothing happened. Sammy sang My Way, like he'd sung it 1,000 times before. Powerful, emotional, genuine. When he hit the final note, the audience erupted. Standing ovation, 1,200 people on their feet, applauding, cheering. Sammy bowed, smiled, waved. Thank you so much. Good night, Las Vegas." He walked off stage. The curtain closed. And the moment he was in the wings, away from the audience's view, his legs almost gave out. Tommy caught him. Jesus Christ, Sammy. Sammy was shaking. The adrenaline that had kept him performing for 30 minutes was draining away, leaving him weak. Is everyone okay? Sammy asked. Everyone's fine. No bomb. No attack. Nothing. The man who gave me the note, security's got him. He's being questioned by police right now. They found out later that the man was mentally unstable. He'd been arrested 3 times before for making threats against public figures. He had no explosives, no weapons, no actual plan, just a typed note designed to terrorize. But Sammy didn't know that when he kept performing. He didn't know if the threat was real or fake. He just knew that stopping the show, evacuating the building, causing panic, that could hurt people for certain. So he chose to keep going. The next day, the press got hold of the story. Sammy performs through death threat, read the headlines. Some reporters called him brave. Some called him reckless. Some questioned whether the whole thing had been a publicity stunt. Sammy gave one interview about it. Just one. To a reporter from the Las Vegas Sun. Why did you keep performing? The reporter asked. You could have stopped, evacuated, protected yourself. Sammy thought for a moment. 1,200 people came to see a show. They paid money, took time out of their lives, got dressed up, came to Vegas for entertainment. If I stop the show, create panic, someone could get hurt in the crush to the exits. And for what? A note that might be fake? Might be real? I didn't know, but I did know that those people deserved the show they came for. But what about your safety? I've been performing since I was 3 years old, Sammy said. I've performed through injuries, through illness, through hatred and racism and death threats before this one. The stage is where I belong, and when I'm on that stage, I have a responsibility to the audience. That's the deal. They show up. I perform. Everything else is just noise. Were you scared? Sammy smiled. Terrified. Absolutely terrified. But fear doesn't change the job. The show goes on. That's what it means to be a professional. The reporter asked one final question. What did you think about during those 30 minutes? Sammy was quiet for a long time. Then, I thought about all the times in my life when people tried to make me stop, tried to silence me, tried to tell me I didn't belong. Racists who didn't want me performing in their venues. Bigots who sent death threats when I married May. People who told me a one-eyed black man had no business being a star. And I thought if I stop now, if I let fear win, then they were right. They can stop me, but they can't, because I won't let them. I'll perform through their threats, their hatred, their fear, because the music, the entertainment, the connection with the audience, that's bigger than any of it. Years later, in 1987, Sammy was being interviewed for a retrospective on his career. The interviewer brought up the death threat incident. Looking back, the interviewer said, "Do you think it was worth the risk?" Sammy didn't hesitate. 10. Teachers. Absolutely. Because here's what I learned that night. We can't let fear control us. We can't let threats silence us. We can't let the possibility of danger keep us from doing what we're meant to do. If we do, then the people making the threats have already won. They don't need to hurt you physically, if they can hurt you psychologically. If they can make you stop living, stop performing, stop being who you are. But you had no way of knowing if the threat was real. That's exactly the point, Sammy replied. Life is full of unknowns. Every time you step on stage, get in a car, walk down the street, you don't know what's going to happen. You can't know, but you can't let that not knowing paralyze you. You assess the risk, you make a choice, and you live with the consequences. And your choice was to keep performing. My choice, Sammy said, was to do my job. To honor the commitment I made to those people who bought tickets, to refuse to let fear dictate my actions. That's not bravery. That's just professionalism. The death threat incident became part of Sammy's legend. One more story, in a life full of extraordinary moments. But for Sammy, it wasn't about being a hero. It was about something simpler and more profound. It was about understanding that when you're given a gift, talent, opportunity, a platform, you have a responsibility to use it. No matter what. No matter who tries to stop you. No matter how scared you are, the show must go on. Not because the show is more important than safety, but because the show represents something larger: the refusal to be intimidated, the commitment to your audience, the understanding that your fear doesn't give you permission to let other people down. When Sammy Davis Jr. died in 1990, one of his bandmates from that 1968 show gave an interview. "I was terrified that night," he said. "We all were. We could see the security, the bomb squad, the chaos. And I kept thinking, why isn't Sammy stopping? Why isn't he getting off stage?" And then I realized, because he's Sammy Davis Jr., and Sammy Davis Jr. doesn't stop. He doesn't quit. He doesn't let fear win. That night taught me what it means to be a professional, what it means to honor your craft, what it means to put others before yourself. I've performed thousands of shows since then, and every time something goes wrong, equipment fails, I'm sick, there's a problem, I think about that night, about Sammy singing through a death threat, and I think if he could do that, I can handle this. If this story of courage, professionalism, and refusing to let fear dictate your actions moved you, make sure to subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear that the show must go on, not because the show is more important than you, but because your commitment to others, your craft, and your purpose is worth more than your fear. Have you ever had to perform or show up when you were terrified? What did you learn? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more incredible true stories about legends who showed us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's performing anyway.